The time is 9:05.
Shayne's Music Magic.
Welcome back to Shayne's Music Magic. Coming up next, we have a special segment called Music X-File with a very special guest. So stick around. We'll be right back after Well, Well, Well by Duffy.
Well, well, well. Well, well, well. Well, well, well.
Every Tuesday, we will be having a special segment during the third part of our show. The special segment, of course, is called Music X-File, and it's all about the hidden, interesting stories in the history of pop music. Who is going to educate us on pop music history? A special guest, of course. Please welcome our very special guest, Brian Rhee. Hello, Brian.
Hello, everyone, and hello, Shayne. Very nice to meet you.
Oh, it's very nice to meet you, too. This is actually my second day on the job, and I'm still
wow. Well, congratulations, first of all.
Oh, thank you very much. I'm still very nervous, but it helps. It really, really helps a lot to know that a really cool guy and is really here to help me through this.
Well, thank you. Don't be nervous, and I'm sure that you'll do just fine. Yeah, I've been doing this radio sort of thing for about 1,000 years now, and your producer, well, she's not very good. I've worked with her for about 1,000 years too, so but I'm sure you're in very capable hands, and I'm sure our listeners are enjoying the show already.
Oh, thank you very much. For those of you who don't know who Brian is, I'm sure you would have at least seen him one time on TV. So can you briefly introduce yourself to our listeners, Brian?
Yeah, well, my name is Brian Rhee, and I've been here in Korea for a little bit over 13 years now, working on TV and radio in English broadcasting in lots of different broadcasting stations, and doing a little bit of this and that, acting in TV and radio and all sorts of different things.
Wow. You already sound so accomplished to me.
Not really. I'm just making all of it up.
So I'm really, really excited, actually, about our weekly Tuesday segment. Will you be telling us hidden fun stories about pop music history?
Yes, some interesting things that people know, and some things that people may not know as well. And since I am a little bit older than you, a couple of years, just a couple of years older than you, maybe some things that you may not know, and maybe some things that our listeners may remember or may not remember.
That's great. Could you please explain the first story of the day?
Well, our first story of the day is something that I'm sure a lot of people remember, and maybe for some of our younger listeners out there, and probably yourself, you weren't around for this. Back when this album came out, it was a sensation. It was a very, very big deal. When this album came out, I was already 52 years old, and I had 4 children. I'm just kidding. No, this album, of course, I'm talking about Michael Jackson's Thriller. Have you heard of this album?
It's one of the most famous albums of all time.
Of course, it is actually the top-selling album ever.
Wow. I didn't know that. Thank you.
Yeah. Now, of course, back in those days, before we had audio downloads and MP3 files and things like that, it was easy to sell lots and lots of albums.
Yeah, definitely.
So when you look at the numbers, you obviously you can't sell the same kinds of numbers that you can today.
Yeah.
But they don't know exactly how many albums were sold, but they estimate it was somewhere between like 65 and 110 million albums sold. It's a lot of albums.
Yeah, that's pretty incredible.
I once recorded a CD with the producer of this show, and we sold 0 albums. We tried to give a few away, but nobody would take them. People would throw them away in our faces.
Aww.
It was kind of sad. In fact, the producer gave me one, and I threw it away. It was that bad.
Wow.
Yeah. Now, you of course know who Michael Jackson is, right?
Yeah, definitely, definitely.
Now, before Michael Jackson became Michael Jackson, this was really the album that made him Michael Jackson.
All right.
But way before that, back when he was a youngster, probably when he was like your age, you're about what?
I'm like
10, 15 years old?
no. I'm like in Korea. I'm 21.
Okay,
and,
so this was, well, maybe he was a little bit older than you are right now. But way back when he was a little kid, before he was Michael Jackson, he was part of a group called the Jackson 5.
Yeah.
And I'm sure people know about the Jackson 5. When he was like 6 years old, he was the lead singer of the Jackson 5.
Yeah.
Which was a very famous group at that time. And they had lots of hits in the Motown era. And this is way back in the 60s. And then later he became a solo artist.
Yeah.
And so at first he was popular, but he wasn't hugely popular. He had some albums like Off the Wall, and he did okay. He had songs like Rock With You and Off the Wall. But then it was in 1982 that he released this album, Thriller.
Oh.
And it became huge.
Yeah, it must have been really, like, almost every song on the album was like a huge hit, right?
Yeah, they had songs like, well, the title track, Thriller, and then there was Beat It, The Girl Is Mine, Billie Jean. Billie Jean was probably one of the biggest hits off of the album. Wanna Be Starting Something, there was Human Nature, PYT. There were just so many big songs off of that album. And this album actually not just was a big hit within itself, but also it kind of changed the nature of pop music, changing things from more of rock into R&B and what we know now as pop music. And also it changed the nature of MTV, because at that time MTV was more geared towards rock music.
Really?
And it was the first time that they had an artist who was more of an African American artist. Up until that time they didn't have much R&B music or what they called, soul music or black music up until that moment. But when they started off with that Beat It video and the really famous Billie Jean video, that's when they started having more and more African-American artists on MTV. And this was really the thing that changed it, was the Thriller album.
Yeah, he definitely probably a big role model to a lot of like up-and-coming African-American artists at the time, I'm sure.
Absolutely. He paved the way for this to happen and really changed the programming on MTV, which was a big thing at the time. Now MTV, they don't play music videos anymore, but back then it was all music videos. That's why it's called MTV. All right, well, why don't we take a listen to a song?
All right. We'll be right back after Michael Jackson's Human Nature. That was Human Nature by Michael Jackson. Shall we continue with today's story, Brian?
Absolutely. And, I love that song off that album. People don't remember that song that much off of Thriller, because I think it's overshadowed a little bit by songs like Beat It and Billie Jean. But that was one of the big hits off the album, and one of my favorites off the album.
I really liked it too. So,
because like you mentioned earlier, almost every song off of the album was a pretty big hit, except for the only two songs that weren't really a big hits were Baby Be Mine and The Lady in My Life, but pretty much every other song was a hit.
Yeah, wow.
So Wanna Be Starting Something, The Girl Is Mine, which was a duet with Paul McCartney, of course, from the Beatles. There was Thriller, Beat It, Billie Jean, Human Nature, and PYT, which were all huge hits.
Wow.
And like I was mentioning earlier, this the idea of MTV back then, which was just showing music videos, and the whole format was just, they would just show music videos all day long. They didn't have reality shows like it's now all reality shows, but back then it was all music videos. And what they were was not like even how we make them today, which was showing people dancing and choreographed and made specifically tailored for the song. But back in those days, it was the beginning of MTV. And so it was just sort of like footage of concerts or just footage of the bands performing a little bit, but it wasn't made specifically to be a music video.
It was like the raw thing.
Yeah, it was just raw footage of them shooting in the studio, or concert footage, or just little bits and pieces, and then put together as a music video.
Right.
And what happened was, this was the time when Michael Jackson started doing this, is he actually made music videos to be a music video. So when you saw Billie Jean, it was made specifically to be a little bit of a story.
Yeah, the story, yeah.
To fit the song. And Beat It also was like these two gangs were fighting. And then Thriller came along, the song Thriller, which was actually specifically, it was like, there was a little story that came before the song started.
Right.
It was like this couple on a date, and then Michael Jackson turns into like a werewolf or something. and then you had the whole intro with Vincent Price, who was this very famous movie star who did these horror movies. And so you can hear on the extended version of the song, he does this little, you can hear him talking in the background, and he does the maniacal laugh at the end. As Vincent Price, who was this very famous horror movie star. But actually, people don't really know this, but they really had to fight a lot to get airtime on MTV because they weren't used to playing, like I said, African American artists.
Yeah.
On MTV at the time, so they had to fight to get him on there.
Wow.
Because they weren't used to it, because they were mostly playing, like I said, rock music at the time.
Yeah.
So once they got him on there, it really, like you mentioned, opened the doors for other younger artists and other African American artists to get in there, and especially more pop and more R&B artists to get into MTV. So it really changed the way that MTV worked and really sort of opened the mainstream towards this genre of music.
Yeah. So it wasn't just like a huge selling album. It was also like an iconic thing for a lot of up and coming,
Yeah, it absolutely changed things, the genre of music. It changed MTV. It changed a lot of different things, not just for Michael Jackson, but for the music industry as well, and for MTV and for a lot of different things. So it was just a very, very influential album for a lot of different reasons.
That's really, really interesting. I just wanted to ask you if you had another song ready for us.
I do, as a matter of fact. Since we're talking about the album Thriller, we have to listen to the title track.
Of course. Enjoy the song and stick around. We'll be back in part 4 of Shayne's Music Magic. This is Thriller by Michael Jackson. The story between us, Shayne's Music Magic. You are listening to part 4 of Shayne's Music Magic. I'm your DJ, Shayne, and we are hearing all the fun stories of pop music history from our special guest, Brian Rhee. Brian, I gotta tell you, all these stories are really, really interesting. Of course, like you said, I didn't know a lot of them, so please keep them coming, and please share the last story of the day. Okay, well, our second story, we're talking about another very popular figure from the music world, who's also very heavily influenced by Michael Jackson. This is actually Britney Spears. Oh, right.
Now,
right.
you might think, well, what does Britney Spears have to do with Michael Jackson? Well, we know that Michael Jackson, of course, while in his early years, very wildly popular, and then later on in his career, kind of went crazy.
Yeah, right.
Kind of went crazy. But another thing is that, we talked about how Michael Jackson was very influential to a lot of artists, like in the music videos. What is very, very common in most music videos today is the artist singing and a lot of dancers in the background with choreographed routine. Well, that first started with Michael Jackson. Right. And of course, we see Britney Spears, and she had a lot of that dance influence and a lot of that choreography influenced by Michael Jackson as well. Well, now, she also was a child star, just like Michael Jackson. She started off in the Mickey Mouse Club.
Yeah, I remember that.
Just like a bunch of other child stars like Justin Timberlake and a bunch of... Christina Aguilera.
Right,
and other stars like that. And, of course, the Mickey Mouse Club is made by the Disney Corporation, and the stars are supposed to be very, very wholesome, very pure and innocent.
Right.
And she, like all the other stars on that program, started off like that. Mm-hmm. And when she first started as a singer, she had that kind of an image. And she had her song, Oops, I Did It Again.
Yeah.
And then later, Baby One More Time. And she started to grow up, of course.
Yeah.
As everyone does. And her image started to become a little bit more mature and a little bit sexier, which is normal.
Yeah, it's pretty normal for a popular female pop star.
Yeah, as a pop star. Mm-hmm. Well, but then she just kind of went crazy. to put it
mildly, yeah.
Mildly. She went crazy. So basically, where she really, she married her boyfriend, Kay Fed, or I'm not sure if they got married, but she got married and it got annulled, and she started to do some strange things.
Right. After the whole K-Fed thing.
Yeah, but it really sort of got to a peak in 2007, in the late winter, early spring of 2007. She was having some issues where people were saying that she was having some problems with substance abuse. She had her problems with her boyfriend/husband, whatever it was, K-Fed. And then one night she was in Los Angeles, and some paparazzi had caught her she was in a beauty salon or somewhere, shaving her head.
Wow.
Yeah, they caught her and she was just there, just shaving away.
Wow.
And yeah, so she just decided one day, I don't know, to go buck wild and and shave all of her hair off. So her family at the time was very concerned about her partying, her drinking, her wild lifestyle, and I guess she had a bit of a breakdown.
Yeah, well, I'm sure when you're going through a lot of what she went through, like, you just one day might just shave your head.
Yeah, this, of course, is not unusual. We see this in particular in America with a lot of these younger stars. It's happened with people like Drew Barrymore, Lindsay Lohan,
right.
Kate, Mary, Kate, and Ashley Olsen, whatever the twins' names are. Mm-hmm. Even what was the Home Alone kid? His.
No, I totally forget. Yeah.
I forgot the Home Alone kid's name. He went kind of crazy. A lot of these children stars end up
kind of crazy.
Macaulay Culkin. He had a little Michael Jackson connection too. But a lot. It happens. I think it's just too much stress, too much pressure from an early age.
Yeah, definitely.
And especially with the paparazzi and, all this money at an early age. And so it's a combination of all these different things that happen. And so, yeah, she just, I think she just kind of snapped.
Yeah, when you're under so much pressure at a young age, I'm sure, like, I don't personally know what it's like, but
well, you've got pressure on you. Are you going crazy a little bit?
No, I don't.
Do you feel like shaving your head?
No, not really. Okay. Unless it's like a new concept.
Okay, well, if you're gonna go crazy, let us know ahead beforehand, so we can be there with cameras and we'll take your picture and put it on the internet.
Oh my! Wow.
Because we could sell those pictures and make money. So. I've got to make a living too. All right. So she, of course, she had that the whole K-Fed thing. She had this breakdown, and but still, she managed to make a comeback. And then again in 2008, she had a little bit of a breakdown again. After she shaved her head, she went straight into rehab.
Mm-hmm, right.
For substance abuse. She needed a little bit of a break. She came back. She made another album, and it's kind of been an ongoing thing. She's gone into rehab. She's come out, and it seems like every time she starts to get a little bit of momentum going again, she has some issues.
Yeah.
But the thing is that she does continue to make albums and sells.
Well, yeah.
She hasn't really had the success that she did in at one point I would say the midpoint of her career.
Mm-hmm.
But she still does do fairly well.
Yeah, I think she does pretty well considering everything she's been through, and she still has so many fans supporting her. So
Absolutely. And so I think that all of us, especially her biggest fans, but I think all of us would like to see her sort of get stable again.
back at her prime, and
and really sort of get back to the point where she's not going crazy, not shaving her head, and not going to rehab. But I think we'd all like Britney to sort of get back on track and do well.
Yeah, I think we hope that for a lot of child stars going through the same thing that she went through.
Absolutely. Because we're starting to see, there's some child stars like Lindsay Lohan who continue to get in trouble, but then there's some like Drew Barrymore who have finally, she's been doing well for a long time. She's been there, done that.
Yeah,
and,
been there.
And now for a long time now, she's been very stable and very successful. So she proved that you can do it.
Yeah.
And you can sort of overcome those hard times. So hopefully we can see Britney get back and, doing well again.
All right. Well, thank you for your story, Brian. That was very, very interesting. Wow, look at the time. Time really flies when you're having fun. But it's already time for us to wrap it up. Thank you very much again, Brian, for all the fun stories. We'll hear more of these stories on Tuesday, right?
If I don't get fired, yeah. Which is always a chance.
All right. What's the last song you prepared for us?
It's Britney Spears, and every time, she makes a mistake, this is what she says. Oops, I did it again.
Thank you, Brian. We'll have more Music X-File with Brian Rhee next Tuesday, so make sure you tune in. Brian's last song is Oops, I Did It Again by Britney Spears. See you next Tuesday, Brian.
See you later.
That was Oops, I Did It Again by Britney Spears. Today for Magic Music, I have prepared a couple of great Korean songs for you. The theme of today's Magic Music is new songs. The first song is called 봄비 or Spring Rain by Kim Jong-hoon. This song is actually from his 10th album, which will be released at the end of April this year. Fun fact, this is actually the first time for Kim Jong-hoon to do a song with a female artist. He commented that Ali is the only female singer he knows that has the influence to attract more than 20,000 people to an independent concert. Wow, that is a lot of people. The fun lyrics like 혼자 사는 것도 지겨워요. 나도 누가 제발 안아줘요. Otherwise translated to I'm tired of living alone. Somebody please hold me. Portray Kim Jong-hoon's personal life. Our second song is by the ancestor of all boy bands or idols as we claim them in Korea. The song is called Hurts by Shinhwa and is included in their latest album. It's been about 4 years since they released an album, and it's really, really great to see such a legendary boy band still rocking it. The second song we have is called Hurts by Shinhwa, but this one coming up next is called 봄비 by Kim Jong-hoon featuring Ali.
Don't know why I didn't come. I don't know why I didn't come.
A little while ago, you heard 봄비 by Kim Jong-un featuring Ali, followed by Hurts by the legendary boy group Shinhwa, and you just heard Don't Know Why by Norah Jones. It's already time for us to say goodbye. Did you guys enjoy the show today? It was really extra special too because we had our super cool guest Brian educating us on great stories and great music. But again, it's already time for us to say goodbye. Oh, I can't believe how fast time flies. But I'll be back tomorrow night from 8 to 10 p.m., so don't be too sad about that. The last song for today is Half Crazy by Music Soul Child. I hope you enjoy it. Shayne's Music Magic will be back tomorrow night from 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. Have a magical night. Here's Half Crazy by Music Soul Child.